On this episode of Locked On Lightning, we're continuing our player reviews, and today we're taking a look at Haydn Fleury. We're talking about his season, how he provided stability for this Lightning team, as well as looking at the prospect of him coming back next season, as well as his expectations. All that coming up and more on Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to another episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Adam Danker. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Locked On Lightning. Just a reminder, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. On today's episode of Locked On Lightning, we're continuing our player reviews, and today we're talking about Haydn Fleury. His role on this Lightning team has really grown or really expanded or grown, either way you want to put it. But I'm super excited to talk about him on today's episode. We talk about just the stability that he provided for this Lightning team. He is a UFA this offseason, so as to whether he will come back, still up in the air. We talk about the prospect of that happening, as well as if he does come back, what will the expectations be? We break it all down. But before we touch on any of those topics, please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Give us a follow wherever podcasts are distributed in audio form. We're also available on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel there. Comment below. Let us know how you felt about Haydn Fleury this season. So, Haydn Fleury, I don't think got or gets a lot of credit. When we think about this Lightning defense this year, obviously the first thing that comes to mind, or the first word that comes to mind when you're discussing the Tampa Bay Lightning's defense, could be disaster, poor, mediocre, maybe even at times. It was not a good season defensively for Tampa Bay. And it was really rough in the beginning of the season. And I think that as much as we have trashed or really discussed how poor this team was defensively this year, we need to look at the positives or look at some of the players that really kind of helped out. And I think that when we talk about defense in the NHL, there are a lot of unsung heroes, players that maybe do a lot more than maybe what we give them credit for. It could be just because there's other players on the team that are bigger names. There's a whole lot of factors into it. The other one could be that, they're on the third line. They don't play a lot. There's a lot of things. With Haydn Fleury not playing a lot was really kind of the big thing about it this year. He played 24 games, had 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points. Plus minus was in the positive. So, like I said, not something that you're going to see a whole lot when we're talking about Lightning players in general as we're doing our reviews. But I will say, with Haydn Fleury, I thought for the most part, in the little opportunities that were afforded to him this year, I thought he held it down as well as maybe one might with limited opportunities, and that also coupled with injuries here, other players maybe not playing well. There was times where Haydn Fleury really had to put on his big boy pants and be the adult on the ice. At times he played with Emil Lilleberg, and excuse me, and I think that when we kind of look back on the positives of the Lightning season, I think we got to do Haydn Fleury justice by talking about the positives he's brought. Like I said, and like I alluded to, his numbers aren't going to jump off the page to you. As much as you would like to see a guy like this score a little more, which I think Haydn Fleury does have the potential to be somewhat of an offensive defenseman in this game. He has shown it in little spurts here and there. Let's not forget, during the 1920 season, he did have 14 points in 45 games played. And really, I think that's been the whole theme of his career, that, he has really not played a full season. And we'll talk more about this on the next segment, but I would not be opposed. I would not be opposed whatsoever. Him getting maybe 70 games in next year. I think he's earned it. I think, this being his second season with Tampa Bay, he has really kind of grown into his role on this team. And listen, he's not going to jump off the page and be a game changer. That's not his role. That's not what the Lightning are asking of him. That's not what we're asking of him on this podcast. We're talking just more about really just him being the guy to fill in and do his job. And that's really what you need from a guy like Haydn Fleury, especially going into next year, where, and even this year as well, both scenarios and both situations are going to call for a guy that, may not know very well until the day of if he's playing or not. And a person who's going to have to roll with the punches, a guy who is still very well in the prime of his career. What you're getting out of him now is pretty much what you're going to see out of him for the remainder of his career. But I think that's what the Tampa Bay Lightning need. Now, whether or not Haydn Fleury is all right with that role next season is a whole nother thing, considering, some of the decisions that the Lightning will have to make financially and just in terms of roster moves. Whether or not the Lightning will bring back Haydn Fleury is a whole nother thing within itself. But I think that at the end of the day, the type of support, defensive support, in those situations where it was doing something as simple as just getting the puck out of the zone or out of the corner in your own zone, really, whether or not it changed the game, it's really, if you've been a listener of my podcast for at least even the last year, that one of my big things is just the Lightning having to do the little things in order to win games and be successful. I approach games as just taking little moves or doing little things here and there, whether, like I said, whether it be making the pass tape to tape, playing responsibly in the neutral zone, clearing out your zone. Little things like that go a long way over the course of a game. A game is not won in one shift. The game is not won in one period. Sometimes it is, and more so, the game is lost in one shift, which we have seen with the Lightning, or even in one period, we've seen that happen. But I think that, like I said, with Haydn Fleury, what he provides is a steady stream of responsibility, a steady stream of someone that is going to come in and just do his job. It's not going to be overly spectacular. It's going to be more so just someone coming in and being a solid third line defenseman, and that's what they got out of him. Obviously, the Lightning, John Cooper was looking at other options this year. I would hope, more so next year when, if they do make the move of moving some players out of Tampa Bay, that Haydn Fleury does get his opportunity full time on that third line, because I think we can make it work. He can make it work. Like I said, he's not going to be there to score. He's not going to be there to win a Norris. He's going to be there to provide support and just hold things down while the other lines are getting their rest, as well as, maybe even teaching a Maxwell Crozer or a Lilleberg So let me know in the comments below. I mean, like I said, we're not going to sit here and rave about Haydn Fleury. I mean, listen, his game is very simple, and sometimes simple is the best thing, especially for a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning. So coming up in just a little bit, I mean, listen, it's all guaranteed he's going to come back, but we're going to talk about it because, he's a UFA. So we're going to talk about what are the chances he comes back next season. Coming up in just a little bit, but first we're going to talk about our first sponsor of today's show, and that is our friends over at Game Time. Now, the NBA playoffs are here, the NHL playoffs are here, and, listen, ticket prices are going to go up, but you don't have to spend an arm and a leg, okay? You don't have to sit all the way in the nosebleeds to get in on playoff action, okay? Game Time has last-minute deals, all in prices and views from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee, because Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, playoff tickets, whether it be NBA or NHL. I went to a couple of events this year. I went to a Mark Norman comedy show. Last minute, paid $30, was in the orchestra. Okay, and if you know Mark Norman, he's a big deal if you're big on comedy. And I also went to a couple of games, hockey games and baseball games this year and last year, and I paid next to nothing for great seats, and it was all with Game Time. They have these last minute deals that can save you up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concert, comedy, theater, whatever it is, they have it. You could save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So as always, I want to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Give us a follow wherever podcasts are distributed in audio form. We're also available on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel there. Drop a comment below this video. How did you feel about Haydn Fleury, and how realistic is it of a chance that we might see him in Tampa Bay next season? Because really, up until really a couple days ago, I thought, no brainer. Bring him back on a cheap deal, which I'm sure can be very well done, considering Haydn Fleury isn't going to be wanting, $6 million, $9 million. I mean, really, he's not going to be getting, I don't even think he'll get $1 million from the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'd be shocked. I think what we'll maybe see is something around what we've been seeing from his time here in Tampa Bay, something around $760 a year. Since he's been here 2 years, I would probably maybe imagine that number is going to go up to maybe 780, 790-ish, which is fine, especially if he's going to play a little bit more, which I would expect he is. We have talked a lot about here on the podcast how really that last line could very well just be Lilleberg and Crozier. I wouldn't mind, especially if so they don't overwhelm Crozier, that Fleury could kind of be platooning in that role from, with Fleury and Crozier together. I think would be a good kind of on-off pairing, as also where Lilleberg could kind of get some different looks with different teammates in game. And I also think what other variables kind of get rolled into that is, you're going to have your injuries, and really that's what's going to be kind of the big thing, and kind of when we most will likely see Fleury get more playing time is when injuries happen. So, you definitely, especially at this point in his career with the maturity level that he has, I think it's almost doing him a little bit of a disjustice if you don't have him playing a little bit more in scenarios other outside of injuries. And so, but really the big thing here, the big question that we're asking ourselves is not how the Lightning should really use him, is if they're even going to be able to get a chance to use him. Because as we all know, a couple of days ago, they made the big trade, brought back Ryan McDonagh. And obviously, when you bring back McDonagh, not only do you bring back a very experienced, mature defenseman who you know is going to come in and do his job, but you're bringing back his contract, which obviously kind of handicaps the Lightning quite a bit. And I think the big issue, or the big question mark swirling around the Tampa Bay Lightning, is going to be, are they going to make a deal? Are they going to maybe be a little bit strapped on the roster in terms of who they bring back? And I see a lot of people on our YouTube page, which I was all for if you would have asked me probably like right when the Lightning were eliminated. But now, given time to kind of think on it, a lot of people are saying, let's get rid of Cernak. First of all, his no trade clause goes into effect in about a little over a month. Do I expect the Lightning to make a deal where they trade away Cernak for peanuts? Because really that's what you're going to get back in for him. Every team's going to know Cernak is going to be nothing more than a salary dump. The guy really has a hard time of staying healthy, but when he's healthy, he's a very good defenseman. I guess that would be what your selling point is, and really what you kind of have to go with, you know. And unfortunately, what might very well happen is that the Lightning are going to have to give away some draft picks in order to kind of sweeten the pot of taking on that salary, which even if you do trade him away, you're going to have to probably retain a little bit of salary. But at the same time, it wouldn't be bad. But I think really at the end of the day, you should hold on to Cernak because, yes, because of the issues that I've spoken about on this podcast before, you should still keep him because you are going to have you're really going to have a lot of young talent on this team, whether it be defensively or even offensively. And having another veteran isn't really going to hurt you. And it's really going to be more helpful. So keeping Cernak, you should definitely do that. So we look at kind of the odd guys out. And that's really where kind of Haydn Fleury has the disadvantage, because obviously if you think about it, who would you rather keep on paper, Fleury or Cernak? Obviously the guy who you kind of have under lock and key for the next 8 years or whatever, how much is left on his contract, you're going to probably have a harder time of keeping him. So you kind of want to keep it, probably just come to peace with keeping him and letting Fleury walk. Like I said, Fleury's not going to be that expensive in the offseason, but at the same time, I think that Julien Brisebois and Lightning fans are kind of going to be a little bit more, I would say probably particular about the moves that they make in the offseason. And it's really, unfortunately, might very well come down to a situation where we don't see Haydn Fleury in Tampa Bay next season. But I think that at the same time, if I were the GM, as was the case with Brisebois going back to McDonagh, stick with what you know. You stick with what's worked for you in the past. And what's worked for you in the past, for the most part, really has been Haydn Fleury. His first season with Tampa, it was, really, it was kind of the same situation what we're having with Connor Sheary right now. Not overly impressed. Actually, probably the other, the just really just disappointed in what not necessarily happened, but more so what didn't happen. And I thought that this second year in Tampa really just, I think, was a redemption season for him. I think he played, like I said, we're not saying that Haydn Fleury played at a Vezina Trophy winning a Norris Trophy winning level. Absolutely not. But for the situation that the Lightning had to go through, combined with how he played in the situations that were afforded to him, by all means, I thought it was probably a grade C season. And I think that in terms of coming back to the Lightning, I think I would have to give it probably I would say like a 75 percentile return rate for him. And I think that's a reasonable assumption to make. So let me know in the comments below. I mean, the guy is going to be worth a little over $1 million total. Sign him to another 2-year deal or even a 1-year deal. You take it from there. And I think that not only you put yourself in a good situation by bringing back Haydn Fleury, but you just put yourself in a good situation with the salary cap. So let me know in the comments below on our YouTube channel, or if you want to reach out to me or the show on Twitter, go ahead and do so at LO_Lightning on Twitter, or as well as LockedOn_Lightning on Instagram, or if you could reach out to me on my Twitter page at DankyDank, DENKYD8NK. So to wrap things up, we'll be talking about our expectations for 2024 and 25 if Haydn Fleury would have come back. So we'll talk about that coming up in just a little bit. But first, we're going to talk about our last sponsor on today's show, and that is our friends over at Indeed. Now, there's no I in team, but there's one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform you need to build yours. When you're hiring, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you could attract, interview, and hire all in one place instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for the candidates with the right skills. Indeed's powerful hiring platform can help you do it all. They streamline hiring with powerful tools that find you matched candidates with instant match. Over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed Data USA. So I had a friend that started his own business about almost a year ago now, and it took off, and he needed high quality employees fast, and he went on Indeed, and he was able to hire 4 people of very, who he's given promotions to in the meantime since then, and he was able to find them in the span of a week, and he found them all through Indeed. So start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 job credit now at Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. So one last time, I want to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Give us a follow wherever podcasts are distributed in audio form. We're also available on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to our channel there. You can find my other work over at boltsbythebay.com. So obviously this is a very tentative expectations for 2024-25 because he may not even come back. Because nobody saw the McDonough trade coming. So we could very well see something that could completely change the whole landscape of this team from now until September. And that could very well mean that Haydn Fleury does not return to Tampa Bay. And that's no reflection on him. I mean, we know with every team, sometimes you got to make changes, and sometimes part of those changes mean you don't bring back guys that necessarily don't fit into your new vision for the team. And I would hate to see Haydn Fleury go, because I feel like he didn't get a fair chance or really didn't get a good enough chance to prove what he can do for this Lightning team. I think that, if he were to play an 80-game season, you're looking at a guy, like I said, who could still be a solid third-line forward. Guy who could play every night. Third-line defenseman, could play every night. Provides you a little bit of a spark of offense. But a guy, like I said, that is going to play hard, going to be able to give you defensive stops here and there throughout the course of a game, and just do the little things to kind of weather the storm when things are going bad, especially when the Lightning have a ton of pressure in their own zone. And, I've seen it multiple times this year where the Lightning are just failing miserably to clear the puck out of the zone, and Fleury is able to at least get it out of the corner, not necessarily out of the zone, but at least, fights in the corner or along the boards for puck battles and puck possession. And that does go a long way. I don't care what anybody says. Doing the little things, if a guy can come in and do the little things, he's going to find a spot on my team. He's going to have a spot on my team. And I think that's really what my expectations would be for a Haydn Fleury return to Tampa Bay in 24-25, is a guy that is going to give you depth. I don't care what anybody says. He does provide depth. It's not a great amount, but it's a body nonetheless that is going to come in and I expect come in and do the little things. And really, like I said, a team like Tampa Bay that struggles early on in seasons to find their identity, that is, I wouldn't be surprised, is going to struggle early on this year, especially with the amount of young talent that they're going to be bringing up from Syracuse this year. You're really going to it's going to take a couple of months for, especially this defense with, McDonough, and what you're going to get out of him, but he's been gone for a little bit. So it's going to take a little bit for him to play and get on the same page with some of these guys. And at the same time, we're going to have injuries. McDonough will get injured. Chernak will probably get injured unless he is somewhere else. Hedman will probably be banged up a couple of times. So will Sergachev. It happens with defensemen. So expect Fleury to get plenty of playing time, be played mainly on the third line, but with multiple partners over the course of 24-25. I don't expect anything really outrageously offensive coming off his stick, but you never know. Crazier things have happened. Tanner Jeannot could same thing I said with Tanner Jeannot. I expect him to kind of jump off this year offensively. In the right situation, in the right time, he could definitely do that. And same thing with Haydn Fleury. Who knows? He might get a partner, defensive partner, who he really gels great with. And, he puts up 15 to 20 points this year. Who knows? We really got to wait until the season starts. So let me know in the comments below your predictions or expectations, rather, for the 24-25 season. Let me know if you want Haydn Fleury back. And we'll be back tomorrow to talk about Nick Perbix. So definitely tune in for that, because that's going to be a loaded episode here on Locked On Lightning. So in the meantime, that's been it for this episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Danker. I'll talk to you in the next one.